Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some very cool battles in the Open Master League featuring HISUIAN Avalugg. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. HISUIAN Avalugg is an Ice and Rock type Pokemon with the moveset of Powder Snow, Rock Slide, and the nuke move of Blizzard. HISUIAN Avalugg often overlooked in favor of the regular Avalugg, but this trainer pairs it up with Zarude and Landorus and has some nice success. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out HISUIAN Avalugg in action in the Open Master League. Hopping into the first match, picking up a bit of a tricky lead, Zarude into Zacian. Now Zacian of course can hit for massive super effective damage with Play Rough or Close Combat, but the nice thing is, XL Zarude is quite tanky, so even if they do go for the Play Rough here, which they do, Zarude is able to hang on and make it to the back-to-back Power Whips. Going for Power Whip number 1, that's going to connect, and now going for Power Whip number 2. Now this will KO the Zacian. Decision time for the opponent. Opponent is going to commit the shield. We see a save switch into Landorus. Landorus farming up energy. Zacian makes it to the Play Rough, so we will see a shield from the Landorus. Landorus continuing to farm up a ton of energy. Zacian going for another charge move here. Landorus is going to let this through. It's the Close Combat. Opponent now going to send in Giratina Origin. Giratina is going to be hit with Stone Edge after Stone Edge here. Stone Edge number 1 is going to connect. Landorus farming up and playing to the CMP tie. A very, very nice decision. Stone Edge is going to connect, getting the Giratina into perfect farm down range for HISUIAN Avalugg. Opponent goes for the Ominous Wind. We're going to see a pivot into HISUIAN Avalugg, and HISUIAN Avalugg gets the farm down. We know they have the low health Zacian. What is that final Pokemon in the back? Oh no! Opponent has Ho-Oh, and they're about to learn the meaning of pain as HISUIAN Avalugg has Rock Slide. Rock Slide, massive damage, nearly one-shotting the Ho-Oh. Avalugg already going for Rock Slide number 2. That will be shielded. Avalugg continues to farm. Ho-Oh going for the Sacred Fire. We will see a shield from the HISUIAN Avalugg. Opponent running Earthquake. Avalugg can't quite get the farm down. Instead, opts to go for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide will KO the Ho-Oh. Back in comes the Zacian. Zacian will not make the charge move as Avalugg farms down. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Zarude into Ho-Oh. 2 better responses in the back, so we see a save switch into Landorus, and the opponent counter switches a Dialga. They are absolutely core broken by Landorus. Landorus overfarming a massive amount of energy, going for the superpower, and the opponent commits the shield. Dialga fires off the Iron Head. Landorus still has so much energy, will commit a shield, as it's looking to inflict some serious damage onto the Dialga. Baiting with a Stone Edge here, anticipating the opponent is going to double shield, and they do, and now Landorus gets to fire off the superpower. This is only 1 times debuffed. Superpower gets the Dialga low. Dialga gets the farm down. In comes Zarude. Zarude looking for the Vine Whip down, gets the Vine Whip down. Dialga does not make the Draco. In comes HISUIAN Avalugg. HISUIAN Avalugg makes the Rock Slide before they can make the Sacred Fire. Rock Slide is going to connect, getting Ho-Oh deep into the red. Ho-Oh does have enough for the Sacred Fire here. We see the no shield Sacred Fire is going to connect in the back. Opponent is running Zacian. Unfortunately, Sacred Fire did get the attack drop, meaning that this Blizzard, which will still hit very hard, will not quite do as much damage as it typically would. Opponent forced to fire off a charge move here. We see a no shield from the Avalugg, trusting in Zarude to win this game. In comes Zarude. Zarude will be hit with a charge move from the Zacian. Zacian goes for the Play Rough. We see a shield from Zarude. Zarude farming up, going for the Dark Pulse here, just in case the opponent ended up catching on to Ho-Oh. Dark Pulse will KO. In comes the Ho-Oh, but it's too little, too late for the opponent. Zarude, Dark Pulse, takes down the Ho-Oh, and that is a good game. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Zarude into Groudon. Opponent save switches into a quick attack Zacian. Zarude gonna stay in here. Zacian offset by a turn. Zarude is gonna strike first, going for the Power Whip. That's going to connect, and now that it's in Stone Edge range, in comes the Landorus. Landorus can tank whatever is thrown here, but Landorus, looking to preserve some HP, will commit the shield as Zacian goes for the Close Combat. We will see a no shield on the second one here. Health being preserved on the Landorus is pretty useful, because Landorus can output a lot of pressure onto the Groudon. We are going to see the Stone Edge fired off as the Zacian makes another charge move. Zacian is going to let that through. Opponent is going going to send back in the Groudon. Groudon farming up quite a bit of energy, and Landorus, well over 2 superpowers, is going to start striking. Going for superpower number 1. Look to potentially try and catch there. Unfortunately, no luck. Fire Punch will KO the Landorus. Back in comes Zarude. It's a Ho-Oh in the back, and it's time for Avalugg to absolutely feast. Avalugg going for the Rock Slide here. Ho-Oh does have the shield advantage. They will commit the shield. Avalugg continuing to farm and will commit the shield on the Sacred Fire. Ho-Oh goes for the Sacred Fire. Do we see the attack debuff? Yes, we do. Opponent getting a clutch attack debuff that may potentially swing this match in their favor. We see the double shield from the Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh makes it to another Sacred Fire. This will hit for neutral damage, but Avalugg is quite tanky. Avalugg hangs on despite the attack debuff, makes it to the last second Rock Slide. That's going to get the Ho-Oh low. In comes Zarude. Zarude farming up, making it to the Dark Pulse and winning CMP over the Ho-Oh. That is massive. Dark Pulse KOs. All that's left is the Groudon. Can the Groudon make it to enough Fire Punches? They cannot. Zarude hangs on with the Power Whip, KOs the Groudon, and secures the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Zarude into Zacian. Despite the type disadvantage, this is a surprisingly okay matchup for Zarude. Being able to tank a super effective play rough and make it to the double power whip means that Zarude can often force a shield. This opponent is farming up a ton of energy. Odds are they're running double nukes. Power Whip is going to connect, going for the second, but losing CMP to the Zacian. Zarude is going to no-shield close combat, not going to cut it. Zarude able to tank it, flex it a little bit as it goes for the Power Whip, and defeats the Zacian. In comes Dialga. Dialga gets the farm down, but now Dialga is going to have to deal with a Therian Landorus. Landorus will be able to outpace, but instead choosing to overfarm quite a bit and commit a shield as Dialga fires off its energy. Dialga Iron Head will be shielded. We see a ton of farm, and now going for the superpower. Decision time for the opponent. Where do they use their shields? They're going to use it here, committing the shield on the Dialga. This superpower is debuffed, but it's still going to hurt. Superpower is going to be shielded by the opponent, and we see the Landorus able to withstand the Dragon Breaths, make it to another superpower, and get the Dialga low. In comes Avalugg. Avalugg will need to respect the Iron Head or the Draco here. Opponent full sends the Draco. It's Yveltal in the back. Yveltal farming up to the Focus Blast, but they're not gonna get there. HISUIAN Avalugg makes the Blizzard. That's gonna be good night, Yveltal, farming down the Dialga, and that's game over. We've got an interesting lead in the next match, Zarude into Mamoswine. Both Pokemon hitting each other for super effective damage, but Mamoswine is able to outpace Zarude. Mamoswine choosing to overfarm and letting Zarude go for the Power Whip. Power Whip will be shielded. Mamoswine firing off the Avalanche, and they are 3 off their second Avalanche here. So we will see Zarude committing the shield, looking to farm up, and a beautiful catch. Catching the Avalanche onto the HISUIAN Avalugg. Avalugg able to tank that, no problem. Mamoswine gonna stay in here, bank an Avalanche for later, and send in Dialga. Dialga definitely not going to appreciate the Blizzard. Avalugg going straight for the Blizzard. Blizzard does get shielded by the Dialga, but Dialga cannot farm down here without taking a Blizzard, so Dialga is going to be forced to fire off an Iron Head. Iron Head is going to KO, and now you can just send in the Landorus up a shield, and you just have to trust in Landorus to put in work here. They're going to fire off the Iron Head. That's not going to be enough to KO. We see the no shield from the Landorus. Landorus building to the back-to-back superpowers, and this is big. Opponent has an Avalanche on the Mamo, but they can't bring in the Mamo here because superpower is just going to KO. So they're going to have to send in the third. We'll have to see what do they have in the back. They have a Giratina. In comes Zarude. Zarude farming up and going for the Dark Pulse on the CMP tie. I believe Landorus, they're either at the Stone Edge or they're one off, and that's going to matter, so we'll have to see. Shadow Ball is going to connect. Opponent sends in the Mamoswine, and now Zarude forced to burn the final shield. Zarude overfarming, letting itself get as low as possible to minimize the amount of farm that the Giratina can get. Power Whip will KO. Giratina gets the farm down. Landorus does not have the Stone Edge and dies with the move. Hopping into the next match, picking up a tricky lead, Zarude into Shadow Apex Ho-Oh. Zarude, of course, can hit for super effective damage with the Dark Pulse, but does have to be careful of the charge moves from Lugia. Zarude is going to strike first, going for the Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is going to be no-shielded by the Lugia. This is only a Sky Attack. We see a confident no-shield from the Zarude. Sky Attack connects, getting Zarude low. Zarude able to hang on and make it to a second Dark Pulse. That is very nice matchup knowledge. Dark Pulse is going to get the KO as Zarude wins the lead. Opponent sends in Landorus. They're looking for the aggressive butt shot farm down, but Zarude is just too tanky. Able to make it to the Power Whip. Power Whip is going to connect, and that gets them quite low. And now in comes HISUIAN Avalugg. These double super effective Powder Snows are tearing through the Landorus. They go for the superpower. We see the catch onto the Landorus. Very nicely done. That way, not having to give up both shields. In the back is Groudon. Groudon is going to spam fire punches at the Landorus. Landorus can very comfortably tank a fire punch here. Landorus looking to overfarm to the back-to-back superpowers, looking to put some pressure onto the Groudon. Superpower number 1 is going to be shielded, farming up, going for superpower number 2 as the opponent goes for the overfarm. This superpower will be no-shielded. Landorus continuing to farm. This is going to be tough. No shielding the Landorus, leaving it all up to the HISUIAN Avalugg. Avalugg farming up quite a bit of energy here. Groudon is firing off a move. We see the no shield from the Avalugg. It's a fire punch bait. What a call. Oh my goodness. And now going for the rock slide. This is resisted. Groudon commits the shield. Groudon going for another charge move. We see the shield from the Avalugg. Opponent going for another fire punch. In comes the Landorus. It cannot make a move. In comes the Groudon. And it is Blizzard time. Blizzard, massive overkill, taking down the Groudon, and that is a good game. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Zarude into Melmetal. Melmetal, of course, can hit for super effective damage with a superpower, so not the most comfortable lead here. Melmetal goes straight forward, superpower connects. Opponent goes for a catch onto their own Zarude. We have a battle of Zarude, overfarming quite a bit and going for the Power Whip. Power Whip just does not deal a lot of damage. Opponent is going to fire off a Power Whip of their own. We will see a no shield by the Zarude. Zarude is going to bank the energy, and now in comes HISUIAN Avalugg. HISUIAN Avalugg will take super effective damage from the Power Whip here. Power Whip is going to connect, getting the Avalugg low. Avalugg going for the Rock Slide here. Rock Slide should get this Zarude pretty low. Zarude will commit the shield. Avalugg gets farmed down. That is a bit unfortunate. Thankfully, there is still quite a bit of energy on the Zarude, and in it comes. Zarude going for the Power Whip, but this will not KO. Opponent will be able to hang on in the back. Opponent has Meloetta. Opponent with the double mythicals. Oh my goodness. Dark Pulse gets shielded. In comes the Landorus. Landorus up 2 shields to 0, but Meloetta, much like Zarude, is extremely tanky. We see the shield as the opponent is running Thunderbolt of all things on the Meloetta. Meloetta will be hit with the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will deal some solid chip damage, but Meloetta able to withstand it. Landorus farming up, no shield in the move from the Meloetta. It's the Dazzling Gleam that rocks the Landorus, and Landorus I don't think is going to have enough HP left to win this game. Superpower will get the KO. Opponent sends back in the Melmetal. In comes Zarude. Zarude firing off its charge move. We see a shield from the Landorus. Landorus is going to pivot out into their own Zarude. Gets the farm down. Melmetal farms down the Zarude. It's a CMP tie, and unfortunately I don't think Superpower is going to be enough to KO here. Superpower not going to cut it as Melmetal hangs on, losing the CMP tie, but winning the game with a superpower. Hopping into the final match, Zarude being met yet again with a Zacian on the lead. But this Zacian is running Snarl, so they will have slightly faster energy generation, but the good news is that they are doing absolutely nothing in terms of fast move pressure. Zacian goes for the play rough. Zarude is able to hang on, farming up, and going for the Power Whip, just shy of the back-to-back. Power Whip number 1 is going to be no shielded by the Zacian. Zarude makes it to Power Whip number 2, and this will KO unless the opponent gives up a shield. Opponent is going to let that go. They send in Ho-Oh. We see a save switch to the HISUIAN Avalugg. Avalugg going for the Rock Slide before Ho-Oh is able to make a charge move. That is a crazy camera angle there. Ho-Oh commits the shield, and this is enough for the Sacred Fire. Avalugg is going to no shield. Sacred Fire connects. We do not see a debuff. Avalugg farming up, opponent sends in Groudon. Oh my goodness, do they know about the Blizzard? Blizzard does get shielded by the Groudon. You hate to see it. That is absolutely unfortunate. In comes the Zarude. Zarude will have the double shield if it wants to make it to the Power Whip. Fire Punch will get the shield. They make it to Fire Punch number 2. We see the double shield from the Zarude. Zarude needing the Power Whip to get rid of the Groudon. Makes it to the Power Whip at the expense of 2 shields. Going for the undercharge on the Power Whip and the switch into Landorus. What a beautiful play, as this will now allow the Landorus to farm down and comfortably outpace the Ho-Oh. Opponent sends in the Ho-Oh, and it is all over. No shields remaining for the Ho-Oh. Stone Edge gets the one shot, and that is a good game. All in all, HISUIAN Avalugg ended up surprising me quite a bit. Its typing, Ice and Rock, is a lot worse defensively than the regular Avalugg, which is just straight Ice, but it does definitely make up for the fact by having a better moveset. Powder Snow, of course, has that quicker energy generation compared to Ice Fang on the regular, and having Rock Slide for Ho-Oh as well as the nuke move of Blizzard, this Pokemon does have some pretty fun anti-meta play. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.